Year. What's up, guys? Happy. You know what? Not even happy. What's up, guys? Monday. You fill in the adjective. Gosh, flippin' darn it. What's up, Mighty Saint? What up, Crispy? What up, Steve? What up, Tim? What up, Dez? Hope you guys are doing all right. Yeah, man. New week, new set of NBA slates to grind, and I guess now we can hyper focus on it. 8 games tonight on the NBA docket, so it should be a little easier to manage, especially from a stream standpoint, research standpoint. Much better than the 10, 11, 12 games, the big slates that we had to start the season, and also a couple games of data, minute rotations, usage, a couple injuries to work with. So a little bit of floating pieces to get us going. But yeah. Des says, I told you my Phillies were going to the Worlds. Hey, man, if I get my hands on a Phillies beanie just for the next 2 weeks, I'll put Citizens Bank Park in the background, and we Phillies fans, gosh dang it. Oh my gosh, dude, the messages that I'm getting right now, just ridiculous. Just ridiculous. What up, Noble? Here. But yeah, how'd you guys do last night? You guys played a little action last night on whatever you played. NFL, Showdown Baseball, basketball. I dabbled in the late basketball slate. It was just kind of, I didn't want to do too much work. Just kind of throw some. I think I ran 25 lineups on FanDuel. Got into a little too much Karis LeVert, who got injured. And there was somebody else that had a lot of. Josh Giddey. LeVert and Giddey pre-flop felt like they had to go. LeVert, I guess, got a little bit of extra minutes. But Giddey, man, I late swapped into so much Giddey and it burned me. I ended up getting injured. So hopefully tonight we don't get some mid-game stuff. But we saw some success yesterday. Ingram got hurt. A lot of injuries already, yeah. What up, Quinn? The Phillies are now America's team. I've always loved Bryce Harper. No, hey, Phillies were one of my favorite DFS teams all year. So I'll root for them, man. They bring in the big sticks. Schwarber, Harper, Real Muto, Hoskins. Maybe we need a tragedy and you can liven up Castellanos. But yeah, we are a Phillies family right now. It's funny with the Astros. It seems like every time they go to the World Series, it's some team from the NL East. What up, Anthony? What up, EB? What up, Dave? First half was Sacramento and Golden State was bad. Yeah, it was. That was like almost a full game score with 3 minutes left. Swapped to Trey Man, and that did not go well. It was a rough day. A lot of swaps, but we had a little success yesterday. I did good on football. My highest owned everything was Bengal stacks. Unfortunately, I didn't have like a perfect lineup that didn't involve an injury. I'm trying to think. I had Brees Hall get injured. I had a bunch of injuries, but we made money in football yesterday, so that's good. And then I had a really good Saturday night for NBA, so we're looking to keep it going. Usually the beginning of the season is pretty profitable for basketball because prices are as inefficient as they'll be. Projections on like prop betting sites definitely have some room to grow in terms of sharpness, so we'll keep trying to make this money early on. Guys, how's the music? Too loud, too low? I feel like I'll turn it down just a smidge. Just a smidge. What up, DFS Life? Hope you're doing all right. I didn't miss nobody, right? If you guys are out there lurking, drop a year. We a community here. Let's do some bragging, huh? Let's go pull up screen share. And let's pull up our boy Fish Fan. First of many for the basketball season. Last night, I'll scroll up, I'll find it. I don't remember how many bullets he threw into the 40K to first, but he finished 4th and 9th, and then of course had several in the top. Repping the logo, the RunDFS.com logo. Always love it. In his top lineup, CJ McCollum, who benefited from Ingram going down is what it is. Donovan Mitchell without Darius Garland, no brainer. Jordan Clarkson, John Wall, Larry Markkinen, Anthony Edwards, Jared Allen, Jared Vanderbilt, and Walker Kessler Ranger. So this lineup was able to avoid the Giga Chalk, Karis LeVert, Josh Giddey, and there was somebody else that was really high owned in the forward spot yesterday. I'm trying to remember. What up, Ayo? Gun, every team was on a fourth game in 6 days except Nets and Knicks. Yeah, it's early in the season, so I'm not gonna overrate that, but that's a good note. I don't want to load up on Knicks. Nets are also kind of hard to splice between what we think is going to be ceiling games for DFS day to day, but that's a really good note. Certainly something that gets lost in the sauce as the season goes on. What up, Billy? You didn't Burrow with 4 pass catchers in the same lineup. No, obviously, I Burrow and Jamar Chase was my 2 highest owned correlated players. Tons of Josh Jacobs, Eckler. I didn't have that perfect lineup that put them all together. I had a lot of exposure to some busts too, like Drake London and somebody, I can't remember who it was. He was in my highest owned lineup with literally a 0 in the wide receiver spot. My brain is broken today. It was a sad, depressive night, guys. Dad says, I love Harden tonight. I'm just worried about blowout. Hopefully Indiana can compete. Yeah, maybe. NBA did Memphis dirty. Mavs no game in 2 nights. Memphis 3 or 4. Yeah, and they were dealing with no Dylan Brooks still, right? I think you have one of the best DFS communities. Says a lot about your great work, man. I appreciate that, Des. Yeah, I like what we do. No egos, you know what I'm saying? I don't care if you grind in the quarter arcade, the millies. I mean, we literally have millionaire in our community, from NFL Millie Maker, PGA Millie Maker. You guys have seen it. My boy ABP. We got guys out here busting out the 20 maxes. Look at ABP. Look at the rep in the logo. Love to see it. So it's no egos, man. We just here to appreciate sports, appreciate the fantasy aspect of it. So that's why when the noobs come into the gambling space, for some reason there's this like toxic masculinity, like must be greater than now. I don't ever fall into that. We don't need that. What up, father son? Mark Andrews 0. Ooh, that was a big one. That wasn't the one I was complaining about, but yeah, bad injuries too yesterday. It was very bloody, but it is what it is. Let's talk some basketball, huh? You guys want to do it? Let's go jump into the spreadsheet. Oh, actually, let's get caught up on news. Let's go to Underdog's Twitter. If you guys are on Twitter, you should absolutely, definitely be following Underdog_NBA. There might be 2 underscores there. I'm not sure. Give them a follow. Over 100K followers. Best news and the quickest news out there. Key news to watch as of 3 p.m. Eastern. Scotty Barnes questionable. Dylan Brooks questionable. Alperen Şengün questionable. Justice Winslow questionable. And Alex Caruso probable. And then we'll do a quick scroll, see if we missed up anything. What up, Victor? Hope you're doing all right. Moose, what up, Moose? Loading on Ben Simmons tonight. All right. Compazzo available for the Mavs. Azubike ruled out. Austin Rivers ruled out. A lot of nothing. Colin Anderson ruled out. Still don't know how you got tickets to the game. Some news for tomorrow. I guess the Scotty Barnes one is one of the more impactful ones for frontline projections, and that's it. So we can do a little research. So let's go back to that spreadsheet and do a little bit of research. Tim says, hopefully you have a backup TV. Yeah. You know what's funny is I actually do have a TV I've been trying to give away to like one of my nephews. I haven't turned it on in like months, but if you guys don't follow me on Twitter, man, I was just trying to have some fun last night. The copy pasta about smashing your TV in front of guests, your wife leaving to the hotel, you know what I mean? I posted this, and it never fails. It always gets people sometimes. And yeah, and then yesterday I tweeted out, at one point the Millie Maker was like literally a full Bengal stack. top line in the Millie Maker. It didn't hold up, by the way. People kind of lose that. But at one point, at like the 3 p.m. games were over, it was Burrow, Chase, Higgins, Hayden Hurst, Tyler Boyd. So 4 pass catchers for the quarterback and 2 running backs from the same team. And then some people thought like I won the Millie, like it was it clearly says A Green, which I'm hoping that's like a AJ Green fan account. And he thought he was gonna win a Millie from the full Bengal stack. But so like I woke up today to like a mixture of people congratulating me on winning $1 million and also like condemning me for having rage and breaking up my family. And just so you know, none of that is true. Not a millionaire and did not smash the TV last night in a fit of rage. But Twitter is great. It's a great thing that we have in Twitter.com. What's the flavor bank today, man? We're rocking a monster. I told you guys about these a couple months ago. I ordered some Bang, and the girl, my DoorDasher, she was like, "Hey, buddy, they don't have any Bang, but they have some, monster." I was like, "All right, give me whatever." So she rolled up with these little pink cans called Pipeline Punch, and it has a little sugar, but also has half the caffeine of Bang. So there was a point in my life where sometimes I would drink 2 Bangs in a day, and that's like 600 milligrams of caffeine. So this has like 160. So now I get to sip on 2 cans and not feel guilty about it. So we're going Pipeline Punch for a little bit, and we'll get to a Bang sooner or later. What do you think about this tonight for a lineup? Cole Anthony, Tyler Hero, Devin Vassell, Kelly Olynyk, Embiid, Jay Green. Is that Jalen Green? Markkanen and Garuba if he starts. Yeah, and Garuba might have a little bit more implied value because of potentially Şengün being down. So I don't think anything in there looks like a gaping hole. But as always with basketball, don't get too attached to your lineups at 2 p.m., 3 p.m. It's kind of a process mistake because more news will develop and it's just going to open up more potential value somewhere. But I think from a rough draft, placeholder, I don't think there's any gaping holes there. Arizona says I catch big time. That Burrow Chase stack is so low, even cash is crazy. It was my favorite, but like I said, I didn't have that perfect combo without an injury or a zero. Anyway, let's talk a little bit of basketball. Pacers at this Philadelphia 76ers. First game we're going to break down. Pacers projected starting 5. Tyrese Haliburton, Aaron Nesmith, Buddy Hield, Jalen Smith, Isaiah Jackson up against James Harden, Tyrese Maxey, Tobias Harris, PJ Tucker, and Joel Embiid. A 230 total with a 12-point spread in favor of the Philadelphia 76ers. We got a couple games of data for both teams here, and there's still going to be some more regression or progression to the mean. But we're dealing with one of the faster-paced teams in basketball so far, the Pacers, and I believe in that because last season, towards the down the stretch, these are just young guys running up and down the court, and the complete opposite so far for the Pacers. One of the lowest pace ratings here, so a little bit of fire and ice there, and then we're working with some offensive and defensive efficiency inequities. I don't think that I'm going to expect the Sixers to be the absolute worst defense, and I do think that the Sixers had formidable teams to contend with for 2 of the first 3 games. Boston, Milwaukee, San Antonio is inexplicable. But I'm expecting some progression there. The Pacers, I think they're going to be pretty bad on defense going forward, especially in the absence of Miles Turner. With all that said, it is a 12-point spread for the Phillies. So we are wrestling with the thought of, hey, does this game blow out? Does it not? From a projection standpoint and from a usage standpoint on the Pacer side, we can be pretty locked on to the thought of Tyrese Haliburton being the most productive pacer and probably the safest, highest floor to highest ceiling. There's going to be cases to be made for Isaiah Jackson, Jalen Smith, Mathurin, guys like that. But I think Haliburton, if we had to make a case for the highest usage, highest score guy, it's going to be Tyrese Haliburton. Haliburton, I was looking at some of the advanced stats earlier today. Haliburton actually leads the league in potential assists per game. I think that's going to continue to stay up there. We know his assist percentage last year was great. So far this year, great. And because of how fast that they're running, how many paces that they're running, how many possessions that they're averaging per game, he's going to be up there a lot. So he's going to be a guy that I find myself attacking for fantasy and for assist props for a long time to come this season. 31 minutes per game. James Harden right behind him, a full assist per game below him, and we talked about how their pace rating is much lower than Halliburton's, so maybe we add a couple extra implied possessions here for them. I guess the question is, do we expect the Philadelphia 76ers to keep losing games? Probably not. I think the way I'm going to approach the Sixers more than likely is to stagger Harden and Embiid exposure. Not to say I wouldn't have 0% overlap in 150, but for the most part, I probably won't be too invested in both of them. But I am getting about 100 combined fantasy points between the two of them. So if you're in like short entry formats, cash formats, and you really like value today, maybe that's a safe net to throw over 100 fantasy points. So I'll have minimal overlap, but then I'll have a lot of lineups where I just have one or the other, because it's hard to not see a big spike game from one of the two, right? Pulling up Philadelphia to start the season. What up, Dylan? Yeah, we good, man. We good. I truly expected to win. I'm just more frustrated at some of the decision making down the line. I told you guys the other day on stream, there's just a lot of injuries, especially pitching injuries. Michael King, Chad Green. We didn't have Marinaccio. There's a lot, but the offense was just so bad, and they just refused to make a move off of it. Like the Donaldson for Gio Urshela, like I know it also involved the other Twins catcher, and it was a loose way to go get IKF, but Donaldson was so not needed for the great. I think he led the league in like defensive run saves and outs above average at third base defensively, but I don't feel like we would have lost a whole lot with Gio there versus Donaldson or even IKF there. So that's, I don't know. I don't want to. What am I doing? I'm looking up the Sixers usage rates here. So 27% usage on James Harden, 37% for Joel Embiid, 1.3 plus fantasy point per minute for both Harden and Embiid. So just the projection is going to love them a lot. So both guys are in my player pool. Tyrese Halliburton, I think he's too cheap. I was looking at ownership earlier, and he was kind of coming in lower owned than I expected. It's one of those, if the game stays close, it has to be on the back of him and one of the bigs, more than likely. So I'll probably be above the field on Halliburton. And then Jalen Smith finally put in a big game at the office on Saturday, I believe. Dropped 46 fantasy points, 19 and 15. It's 15 rebounds in the cards here against a slower paced, matchup against Embiid. Maybe not, but I still think 5,500 is an egregiously low price tag for him and his potential. So, got to get to Jalen Smith. And then I'll probably spin the wheel, make a deal on the Isaiah Jacksons. And then Matherin's looked pretty solid as well. So those are names that I'm walking away from this game with. And yeah. Dad says if Philly loses tonight, Doc might gotta go. I live in Philly, and 3 games in Philly is already going crazy. Yeah, the Spurs game is inexplicable. You lose the Celtics, the Bucks game, whatever, but the Spurs game is inexplicable. Any coach can get canned, unfortunately. Personally, like that. Vic, it's just bad luck out there. We're gonna turn it around. James Harden is gonna pick this team up, and tonight we're gonna blow out the Pacers. And then we're gonna move on from that awful impression. Miami Heat hosting the Toronto Raptors. Projected starting 5 for the Raptors: Fred VanVleet, Gary Trent Jr., Scotty Barnes, OG Anunoby, and Pascal Siakam taking on Kyle Lowry, Tyler Hero, Jimmy G, Buckets, Max Strus, and Bam Adebayo. We got a 215 total, 3.5 point spread in favor of the home team Miami Heat. All right, a couple outs that we're dealing with. We had some suspensions the other day. The most notable out, I guess, is going to be Martin. He has drawn starts for the Miami Heat here, so we do have to at least fill those minutes. And when he got canned from the last game, we saw Max Strus pick up the slack there, right? So Strus actually logged 37 minutes. Maybe they get a little bit more creative. I think it could be dependent on what happens with Scotty Barnes, and if Scotty Barnes can't play, you know, the Raptors have a couple options on how they can approach that. So it is what it is. I think that's one of the more important bits of news here as these two teams play again. In that last game, we had some worries. I don't say worries, but ceiling pessimism. Or at least I did, about Siakam against Adebayo. Big minutes out of Siakam, big production out of Siakam, and back-to-back games of 9 and 11 assists. So I guess in the potential absence of Scotty Barnes, that would certainly be somebody that I'm more liable to trust in now, based on 20 plus real points per game so far. He's part of the plan, and the minutes are aplenty. So certainly jotting his name down. Fred VanVleet looks like a solid play over on FanDuel, getting a 40 plus fantasy point projection. And then on the Heat side, Hero is the most intriguing to me. I think on FanDuel you can still make cases for Butler, for Adebayo, but this, I think generally speaking, it's just going to be two slow-paced teams, right? Pace ratings are down, two above-average defenses, I think, even though the defensive rating isn't quite where I expect it to be. I just don't expect a ton of ceiling. So unless it goes down to the wire, I'm more than likely just here to take some solo shots on guys that I think have room at their price point, and that's the VanVleet, Siakams, particularly if Scotty Barnes is out. If Barnes does miss this game, I think there's a world every now. That's cool. Am I to be too enamored with the Heat potential value in the absence of Martin? Probably not, but I certainly wouldn't talk you off of Max Strus ledge if he was in the starting lineup, or however they might roll that. They could also run Duncan Robinson, and he's pretty cheap on both sides. So, yeah. Let's get caught up on chat. Needed Boyd instead of T. Higgins. Yeah, Boyd was the guy. He was basically the keys to the slate. Utah undefeated. Markkanen's I talked about it last week, man. Markkanen's been going off all summer, dude, and now he's keeping it going here. So might be somebody to look out for like most improved player award. Miami Raptors are a slog of a game. It's not fun. We find out Lauri Markkanen was Dirk all along, but just on the wrong teams. Maybe. Our boy Jake, he's a Utah Jazz fan, and he was ready for the tank for Wembanyama, and they're out here winning games. So I know some Jazz fans are kind of not happy with this in a weird way. Let's move on. Knicks and Magic, another kind of meh game. We did mention Knicks are amongst the most rested teams on this slate. So if that means something to you, a little extra to you, that's cool. They're at home. Magic projects starting five: Cole Anthony, Terrence Ross, Franz Wagner, Paolo Banchero, Wendell Carter Jr., taking on Jalen Brunson, Evan Fournier, RJ Barrett, Julius Randle, and Mitchell Robinson. 221.5 total, 7.5 point spread in favor of the home team Knicks. The Knicks, Mitchell Robinson logged 23 minutes in that last game. Fourth quarter was a blowout, so he didn't get into that. And then the game prior, 12 minutes. I think he was in big time foul trouble. Yeah, 5 fouls. So Mitchell Robinson could be I don't want to say a sleeper, but a wild card. In his potential foul trouble, we've seen Hartenstein kind of thrive, and he had that massive game in their first game. 4,600 on Hartenstein. That's one of those guys I'd probably jot down in pencil for the 100K to first type contest, and just kind of hope for Mitchell Robinson and potential foul trouble, crossing up with the Wendell Carters, the Bancheros, and maybe some of these guards that are going to the rack. So something to keep in mind there. Jalen Brunson, okay projection. I'm getting pretty meh projections through and through. I think it's 6,300 on FanDuel versus 7,100 on DK. There's a strong case for RJ Barrett. We expect him to probably be one of the team leaders in minutes per game. So at the lightest price on the starting lineup usage, with usage in mind, something on FanDuel I could get behind. Certainly some news on the Magic that we should absorb and understand. So let me pull up the injury report here. I guess there's not really a question. We just know that people are out. Markelle Fultz out, Gary Harris out, Isaac's out. More importantly, Jalen Suggs is out. And then Suggs got injured 2 games ago. And then last game, we saw Cole Anthony start in his place. So when Suggs went down in the third quarter of the Hawks game, Cole Anthony came in, basically finished up. And then the next game without Suggs, Cole Anthony was able to log 31 minutes and was pretty productive. And I kind of expect a similar opportunity today. And maybe we can plug the Garden narrative, right? Let's take Cole Anthony on, Jalen Suggs off. We're going to run this back to last year. Even though it's probably not as fair to do that just because of Banchero, number 1 pick being involved. But I do have some hope in Cole Anthony being able to facilitate. I do think his uses has room to go forward a little bit. And I also kind of have an inkling for his assist props. Usually you can get him around 5.5. Today, I haven't looked yet. What do we have on Cole Anthony? We have him at 5.5 assists, so I might be somewhat interested in that. Since the beginning of last year in this split, Cole Anthony on, Suggs, Fultz off. Working with a 31% assist rate overall. Yeah, there's some floating bits of variance there to kind of change and sway that. But it is a good sign that he's been there on that. And then we had that advanced tab open. Here it is. Where's Cole Anthony on the potential assist? He's at 9. So I guess he would have to be super efficient at 9 a game if that's going to continue. But I also think the 30 minutes has a couple minutes to go forward, so maybe we can get that to 12. So maybe I do stay away from that. But it's all only on the uncertainty of Banchero, and that's for assist prop. I still want to play Cole Anthony for DFS at 6K on FanDuel, 6,200 on DraftKings. I'm getting almost a 6x per dollar return, so I'm interested there. And then Banchero at 7,500, 7,600. I think that's a gut call. Right now, the model isn't really making him an incredible play that I have to go out there and get. And I do think his pricing is becoming a little bit more efficient and maybe starting a little bit hotter. And there's room to calm down a little bit, like we saw against Boston, right? Detroit and Atlanta, pretty good matchups. But the Knicks, with guys like Randall, Mitchell Robinson in that front court, they haven't been a team that I go out of my way to target. I think last year they were one of the better teams at defending points in the paint. And so far this season, I feel like that has continued to be the case. They're ranking about average, but it's a small sample size. So I've tapered expectations here. I think Cole Anthony's the bulk of my interest on the Magic side. And then I probably don't want to get more than 2 Knicks in a lineup when it happens, so I'll probably set that rule. With Brunson, Barrett, Randall being the most intriguing to me, and then RJ Barrett and Randall probably being the highest floor in terms of minutes. 7.5 point spread though, so I guess the door's open for some wishy-washy stuff. Banchero masterclass incoming. You think so, Des? I feel like historically I'm always pessimistic about rookies right away, and then like to start this season it's just like, wow, rookies are going off, and I don't have a model that's projecting them for 40 and 50, right? But maybe. What up, Paul? Hope you're doing all right. Fortunately for all bad NBA team, unlike the NFL worst record doesn't guarantee Wembanyama. Yeah, you still got to get the frozen envelopes ready for that to happen, but you still want to be bad if you are interested in those picks, right? Nets and the Grizzlies. So we only had 2 games in the first hour, or 3 games rather in the first hour. 1 game at strictly 7. So if you are a procrastinator or a guy that likes to take advantage of late swap, just know that you have to have your Sixers and Pacers decisions ready. And then you have another 30 minutes to make some more decisions. And then if you're not as stoked about Heat and Knicks in their games respectively, you get an hour to kind of tinker with your exposures and sit on some news here. So NFL can be really, really profitable if you got extra time after lock to react to news. And I have extra time today that I wasn't quite expecting or hoping for. So I'll probably be that guy, pal. What up, Doug? I like Anthony as well. What changes everything for me is the status of Şengün. If he's in, we play him. If he's out, I kind of want to go heavy on Eason and Garuba. Do you agree? Yes. Şengün being out on top of who's the other guy that was starting over him? Bruno Fernando. My brain is so broken today. So yes on that. It would also create higher interest for me in Jabari and Kenyon Martin. So ways to attack that. Eason had that opportunity last game with Gordon out. I wonder how they would fill that here. There's a couple. The Rockets just feel so unpredictable, but I do think, generally speaking, what we've seen so far out of both the Rockets and the Jazz, no defense, fast-paced basketball, a lot of scoring. So this will be my favorite game of the night by far. And the Jazz are dealing with night two of back-to-back. I haven't seen anything yet, but perhaps you guys have, or if something does drop. Like, I'm always skeptical on Conley playing, you know what I mean? So if that comes out, then this looks like a potential Honeywell for fantasy points. Let me get back to the Grizzlies game here. Boban, you think it's Boban season? Why not? Why not? No Şengün for the way it's been. It seemed pretty capped. I don't know what it is about Şengün, man. When they made that decision for Fernando, you know, a lot of people were shocked. I was kind of, I don't want to say I was floored or stunned or whatever, because it does feel like a tanking team. But yeah, it's like, what does Şengün do? Nets and the Grizzlies, next game on the docket. Project starting five for the Nets: Ben Simmons, Kyrie Irving, Royce O'Neal, Kevin Durant, Nick Claxton taking on John Morant, Desmond Bane, Dylan Brooks, Santi Aldama. That guy. Saturday night, that guy. Huh? Oof. Stone Cold Steven Adams. We got 233 total. 1 point spread in favor of the home team, Memphis Grizzlies. So Grizzlies, we've been waiting on. We've been on Dylan Brooks watch. So let me go see if there's anything new on Dylan Brooks for tonight. Questionable with left thigh soreness. He was considered questionable ahead of Memphis' last two games, only to be ruled out shortly before tip-off. John Conchair is the player who will be impacted the most if he can or cannot start. So that's from a blurb I pulled from NBC Sports Edge. So that's what we're watching here. In the absence of Dylan Brooks, and we've seen this go to the beginning of last year, John Morant, huge usage opportunity. Desmond Bane, uptick as well. And then not only no Dylan Brooks, but no Jaren Jackson Jr. as well. So lots to like and or dislike here. The Grizzlies being 1 point favorites is wow, right? I have that right? There's no way I got that. I don't want to say like I'm floored by it, but what am I missing? You guys, am I overrating Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving? Memphis, 2 points, 1.5. Are we gonna tinfoil hat this? Is somebody out for Brooklyn that hasn't been announced yet? You know what I'm saying? Garuba might go 100% owned in your lineups. Okay. Fernando used to kill it for the Heat in NBA. Bruno Fernando, there is a Fernando is the one from Brazil, right? I remember, if he's who I'm thinking of, him and Giannis had some beef when it was the Greek team versus Brazil. But I don't want to misremember that. But I think that was him. They used to play for Memphis, I want to say. I don't know. Maybe it's somebody else. What's up, Sheriff? Any props standing out for you that you've seen for the Grizz and Rockets game? We'll look at that now, I guess, since we're on the Memphis game. Ben Simmons still doesn't shoot the ball. Yeah. I want to play Ben, but I'm too hesitant if he wants to score just a little bit. Hope Aldama bounces back. I do too. Gonna fade Morant, go heavy on Edwards. I don't know why like this spread is getting me, but maybe I'm just not used to seeing guys like Kyrie and KD on the wrong side of the spread here. But that 230 total is nice, so I want to be at this game. Kyrie Irving on both sides, I see a ceiling. Maybe he's efficiently priced on DraftKings, where the median range of outcomes is like a 40, and that's not going to do much for you at either site and either price. But with a heavier implied total, there's a reality where he drops 20 or high 20s, 30 plus real points, and the same for Kevin Durant. And Durant without Jaren Jackson in the mix, we've seen some bigs have pretty solid games. DVP is not everything, right? But it's a point of reference to just kind of look at where some holes might be. And Memphis has been bottom 7 in fantasy points allowed per game so far to opposing front courts, and it's just there's really no resistance for one of the best players on the planet. So Durant's also got to be a pretty interesting click here. And then Ben Simmons is just really too cheap for this total and for what his upside could be. I'm probably just going to be opposite whatever ownership is, right? One of those spots. But 30 plus fantasy points against the Raptors, still not taking the shot volume that you would want, but there's certainly the stock potential for him to rack up blocks and steals. Last year, Memphis was a league leader in blocks allowed per game when Ja Morant played, and it makes sense because Ja is such a drive to the rack type of guy. Has that continued so far this season? It's very, very small sample size so far, but just out of curiosity, top 10. So opportunity for some stocks there as well for Ben Simmons. And the points in the paint allowed is also going to be something to watch for Ben Simmons as well, because as you guys have noted, doesn't take a lot of shots, but he doesn't need to. Memphis so far bottom or top 8 or top 6 in points in the paint allowed. So there's a lane for Ben Simmons to score to get to the rack. So I think Ben Simmons at 64, 6,600 is one of those prices that's probably going to get me in trouble. Unless he's super high owned, then I'll go the other way. I'm getting 40 plus fantasy points there. What is Ben Simmons? Let's see. What is Ben Simmons on PrizePicks? 29.5. So I got a pretty aggressive disparity between my projection and there. So I'm in on that. On the Memphis side, give me Ja, especially if there's no Dylan Brooks. I'd be less excited if Brooks did play. Hopefully we'll have that information closer to lock. And then Bane, I think, is efficiently priced, especially if Brooks does play. If Brooks didn't play with this implied total, I think Bane could be somebody we expect 20 points out of ish, right? If it's going to meet that total. So maybe that would be more of a PrizePicks lean than anything. And we don't have that information because of the lack of Brooks. Or did I type Brooks just now? I think I typed Brooks instead of Bane. There it is. Bane's at 18.5. So I feel like if Brooks was out, if the Memphis Grizzlies score 115, there's a good shot Desmond Bane puts up 20. So I might look at that as a prop, but I'm sure that'll adjust with the news. Liking Kyrie for him on FanDuel's good games against Memphis. Just seeing this team get lit up by Luka. Yeah, but don't, it's not 1-to-1. But it's certainly a spot where Kyrie can pop off, and there's going to be troll spots for Kyrie and KD all year where one guy goes nuclear and one guy is just like watching the show. But Luka's just a different style, right? But I'm in agreement with what you're saying. The Memphis Grizzlies defense is not good when Ja Morant's on the court. It's even worse when there's no Jaren Jackson Jr. on the court. So it's certainly a beatable spot. That's why I'm like quasi surprised that Memphis is favored here. But it just looks like it's a pick 'em and they went home court hook for a point, Garuba did have 4 steals last game. I probably would leverage to Şengün, honestly, if you play tournaments. Yeah, but you need Şengün to play. Per minute, Şengün's an animal, but you still need him to play, and right now he's questionable. Why people forget it's the same Simmons we used to pay around 10K last year? Ben Simmons didn't play it at all last year. 10K, Man, it must have been a while. I don't remember paying 10K for Ben Simmons, but I think the spirit of what you're saying, Moose, is that he has an opportunity to be a great play tonight, and my model does like him here. So I'm going to agree with the spirit of what you're saying, but I certainly wouldn't. I can't recall happily paying 10K. Maybe on FanDuel. He's a defensive stalwart, so extra implied possessions with extra scoring and stock potential here. I think the FanDuel upside for me is glowing at 42 fantasy points at 6,400. Yes, please. All right, somebody asked about PrizePicks for this game, so let's take a minute to kind of check out the board for Memphis. I think it's going to be a spot where we can't have a lot of conviction until we have definitive Dillon Brooks news. Right now, we're just getting Bane and Ja Morant. I think one of the numbers I've seen on Ja Morant kind of floating is his rebound rate is pretty low. So if you wanted to sweat that, but at 46.5 fantasy points, I'd be running to jam the over if Brooks was out. And this could be one of those spots where even if Brooks played, do we expect heavy minutes? No. If the Grizzlies drop 115 to 118, Ja Morant's probably got a big hand of it. I'm getting a 50 fantasy point projection on Ja. That's 5-6 fantasy points above there. So that would be one of the more interesting clicks for me. And then if I was just banking on the fact that Dillon Brooks could be out based on this total, I'd probably look at Desmond Bane's over 18.5 fantasy points. And knowing that a lot of those will probably come from behind the arc as well. So that's the two that sticks out for me. Brooklyn side, Katie and Kyrie, I probably don't bet their overs for the bulk of this season unless one guy is for sure out. The Ben Simmons fantasy prop is probably the most interesting to me, and maybe the half a block shot. If you didn't trust the fantasy score, I feel like a catalyst in Ben Simmons having a good fantasy game today, based on what we've talked about, is blocks and steals. Memphis has been one of the most blocked teams when Ja Morant's on the court, so I think that could be part of Ben Simmons' games that come out. So a fun, fluky line to sweat, if you wanted to, would be Ben Simmons' half a block shot. But I also do like the fantasy score one as well. So that's what I'm working with for that game. That's what stands out for that game. Hopefully more news comes out to broaden the board and add a little bit more conviction to the takes. Let me write that down, actually, PrizePicks leans. Let's go Ben Simmons over FPS and their point block shot, and then Ja Morant over FPS, and then Vane over 18.5 points. And then is Santi Aldama at 4,400 going to allow us to forgive and forget real quick here as we get another opportunity without Jaren Jackson? I'm thinking hopefully that price point from I almost always like to punt one power forward spot on FanDuel. That price point is going to project extremely well. I don't love the spot or the matchup or the potential, cross up with KD getting foul trouble type of situation, but I'm somewhat expecting to get to 20-30% Aldama in my builds for FanDuel this far out, but we'll see if that adjusts, especially considering that the Houston value could become much harder to look past. Let's get caught up. Gunn, what are your thoughts on Claxton? 5,900 is a hefty price point to pay, but back-to-back 30 bombs, 34 minutes against Toronto is at least encouraging. Let's go pull up the rotations there. And we did talk about how centers and bigs are thriving right now against Memphis, especially in the absence of Jaren Jackson Jr. So it might be one of those obvious in hindsight clicks. Let's see, Claxton. He played almost the whole fourth quarter in that last outing. And then in that first game, the Pelicans put the hurt on him. And only saw 24 minutes there, 3 personal fouls, and then they closed out with the garbage squad. So I guess if Nick Claxton's a 30-minute player, I put him for 30 minutes, and it gave me a solid projection, I guess, points per dollar. Let me pull up the FanDuel price point because Nicholas and Nick, we don't get on the same page here. Oh, he's forward eligible at 6,200. That's intriguing as well. Remember, he can get blocks quick, fast, in a hurry too. So not just Ben Simmons. That could be fun. I might have to throw some Claxton in the mix. I mean, 230 total. Yeah, I want 6K or less exposure for sure. They didn't give us a block prop, but 28.5 fantasy points. That's right. That's pretty linear with my projection, but I think it could be a sneaky. It has about 4 or 5 point gap. I think it could be sneakier than maybe I give him credit. I appreciate you bringing that name up. I don't know if I would have circled back to it, but it's been a strong spot for center so far. So far, small sample size, but it does line up with his strengths. Memphis has been allowing, top 8 fantasy points per game, so I could get behind that. JJ, wait, is that who I think it is? You're about to get the ban, but if you're who I think it is, I'm gonna let you make it because your mom's texting me right now. I'm gonna just tell her to go in your room. If that's not who I think it is, I just made a random your mom joke. My bad. I want to play Halliburton, but I'm not sure how to think about this matchup against the Sixers. Doug, man, I think this morning, I haven't looked at ownership in hours, but this morning I saw ownership on Halliburton wasn't that egregious. So, like, if you are managing a larger portfolio of lineups, I think it makes sense points per dollar to get there. And I don't think you have to be too aggressive on your exposure to be above the field, because I want to be there as well at 8,300. I think he could be a 9K player in a week. So, yeah. If that's my boy JJ, who I play Fortnite with, we make your mama jokes, locker room talk all night. If it's not, I'm my bad. But also, no, not my bad. You come in here bringing the smoke, I'm gonna fire back. Claxton 50 burger. 50's up there, but blocks are there too. How do I paint this picture for you guys on blocks per game? Let's go. I don't know, maybe StatMuse can help us out. Grizzlies blocks per game allowed. I feel like this isn't gonna work last season. I guess I could just pull up one of the old spreadsheets, huh? Yeah, I could probably pull up one of the old spreadsheets. Trust me, they were a league leader in blocks per game last year. What up, Jared Bell? Working while listening. I appreciate that. Taking me along. What's up, Live Life and Grow? What up, Doe? A fade from Olenek, get Kessler. I played them both last night. I was actually kind of happy about it. That game's going to be so stackable. Let's go to that game. Utah Jazz at the Houston Rockets. Project starting 5 for the Jazz. Mike Conley, Jordan Clarkson, Larry Markkinen, Jared Vanderbilt, Kelly Olynyk. I gotta skip the song, man. It's just like driving me weird right now. Up against Kevin Porter, Jalen Green, Eric Gordon, Jabari Smith, Usman Garuba, and definitely some news to watch, especially on the Rockets side. We already know Bruno Fernando's out. Jayshawn Tate's been out. Şengün is a guy that could create some higher expectations from that front court. I believe he had an illness. Yeah, illness questionable. Says the Rockets are already missing Bruno Fernando and Jayshawn Tate, so it might be all hands on deck for the front court. Garuba's already slated for hefty minutes as a starter. Makes sense. All right, cool. So we'll keep an eye on that news all day. Underdog is the source. Make sure you guys have Underdog open, and let me go check out, see if there hasn't been any news since we went live other than DiVincenzo. So that's gonna be one of the big ones. If Şengün did play, I'm still there on Şengün just because we know he has insane point per minute potential, and the Utah Jazz are not, the Gobert Jazz. This is an attackable spot. So especially as the field might poo-poo on him. But if he's not there That 3,500 on DraftKings for Garuba, 4,100 on FanDuel, with or without Şengün, looks really, really doggone good. And then I mentioned Kenyon Martin. Right there at that Santi Aldama price, that might get me in trouble. But I don't mind being invested in Martin in this particular matchup. Small forward and power forward eligible on FanDuel. 22 in that Milwaukee game. I would like to push 30 for tournament upside stakes. And I think this matchup could net that. So I'd have some exposure to Kenyon Martin. And then you mentioned Eason as well. Eason actually started that last game because Eric Gordon was out. So that might shake up some early expectations. Eason played 18 minutes in that game. Oh, he didn't start that game. I had him projected to start, and they ended up not starting him. Kenyon Martin started that game. So I guess that would shake up some expectations, but not really. And then Jabari Smith. So let's put a blanket over. Houston's kind of a mess. Eric Gordon, I don't expect to be a primary ball handler. Just kind of catch and shoot for the most part, right? I still think Kevin Porter is going to set up a lot. So let's put Porter, Green. Let's take. I guess we just look at this season. It's really not enough sample size to get too results oriented about what's happening so far. But we do know Kevin Porter and Jalen Green collectively will be league leaders in usage, and team leaders in usage. And then if Şengün misses, there's a little bit of a hole to make up for. So KPJ at 7,200 on FanDuel, Jalen Green 6,300. Jalen Green is the one popping the most for me, points per dollar with ceiling in mind. So is Jalen Green the play? Yeah, about 30 or better. Looks like a super solid floor, all things considered, and then a 40-plus point ceiling and opportunity. So, yeah, I guess Jalen Green might walk away as my highest owned piece of Rockets exposure outside of the potential value that Garuba is going to offer. And then Kenyon Martin at small forward, I think that's going to be a spot I ended up biting into. 230 total. If regardless of the Şengün news, a 230 total in a game where no one's over 7,300 is going to be very stackable on paper, at least on DraftKings. On marketing for FanDuel, 7,600. Still need that 40 plus, and maybe projection models have some catching up to do. I think 40 plus is still very, very much viable. And I like this matchup probably the most out of any matchup so far. But just really no one is off limits here. So we just might have to be responsible with correlating these players instead of just trusting the projections to fall where they fall. I think Mike Conley is something that's in my head as it's a back-to-back, do we trust him to play type deal, you know? But that's something we haven't seen out there. Like, nothing out there saying that Conley wouldn't play today. It's just something that is just in my head. It's like, do we trust Conley to play in a back-to-back? And this happened to me the other day with Al Horford, and he ended up not playing that night as well. Let's look at Mike Conley. Mike Conley, TKP by game log last 100 games, and just see how often he was playing B2Bs last year. So his last back-to-back was I don't think Conley. I don't have a Conley back-to-back since March. Not even since, but like from all the data, I'm going all the way back to March 7th, and I don't see it back to back. So I just got this feeling that Mike Conley doesn't play today. So we'll see. If Conley didn't play, it just really opens the doors on Clarkson, potential upside, maybe even some more, floor and whatnot for guys like Colin Sexton too. So this game is this is the game. Especially if there's no Conley and Şengün, just to narrow things down that much more, So just something I'm keeping in mind. Get caught up on chat. What are the odds for Jazz to win it all? Don't do that to yourself, Sen. Don't do that. I'm pretty sure they got to be one of the best odds, but don't do that. Vanderbilt is 11% owned. At 4,700 on DK, I can get behind that. I think he's very foul prone, but his per minute, and especially for his defensive stats, are pretty nuts. And we saw that last year as well. But usually that kind of kept him around 25 minutes for like Minnesota. So if it got too high owned, the guys that kind of like lead the league in fouls per 36, I would be a little bit more cautious because there's going to be alternatives on this slate. But I get it. Kelly Olynyk I like as well on FanDuel, 4,800. There's a lot to like about this game. Thinking of playing more Vanderbilt than Olynyk? That's a take. I don't think there's like a wrong take that I would push back on this game. Everyone is going to try and figure this one out. It's the puzzle. It feels like getting this game right wins you the slate, whether it be fading it or not. But this is an important game based on these prices. If Conley's out, Beasley might benefit. Seems they're taking Colin Sexton slow. That's fair too. And then that's not to say I expect Sexton to be out, but yes, it is a back-to-back. And last night they went to overtime, and that's 2 games now that the Jazz have gone to overtime. So in those 2 games, last night we saw Conley not touch the court in the fourth quarter. Same with Colin Sexton. And then against the T-Wolves, Conley did play overtime. Sexton did not. So I think that's a fair take. I do wonder if Sexton would be a rest candidate, but very much more so Mike Conley to me. He don't play back-to-backs. I know that live life and grow, but I don't want to be responsible for 200 people right now, expecting Conley to be out. I don't see news on that, so I'm just trying to be responsible with how we word that. But I do have this inclination that Conley doesn't play tonight. And with that thought, if you agree with me, Utah is on the board over on PrizePicks, and Jordan Clarkson's at 4.5 assists, 18.5 points. Fantasy points for Clarkson is 32.5. Markkanen's up there as well. Like, if we thought that there was no Mike Conley today and potentially a limited Colin Sexton, like, these Jordan Clarkson numbers seem awfully low for a Houston Rockets team that has been atrocious. So if you want to take that leap and just kind of gamble on Conley being out here, I think there's some value on these numbers. So just putting that out there. And then we can go look at last year for Utah, just out of curiosity. I mean, Clarkson's one of those, in my mind, ball hog kind of guys. But if we took off Donovan Mitchell, or well, I guess let's just look at this year. Clarkson on the court without Mike Conley, 38% assist rate, which even if that's 25%, you know what I'm saying? I'd probably be somewhat interested in over 4.5 in what's likely to be a fast-paced game against the Rockets. So maybe that's a lane to take advantage of a hunch. And if it comes back to bite us, oh well. I'm with that. So let's put Clarkson over 4.5 assists. And that's just like hunch related. Vanderbilt is the play, rebounds and plenty of steals and the block chances for him. There is. I'm not anti-Vanderbilt at all. Don't get me twisted there. I just always am pessimistic about his potential foul proneness to get him in trouble. But I will certainly be on board with Vanderbilt, more so on the DraftKings side, but certainly there. Encore, what up, Encore? Everyone going Kelly O. I should probably take a peek at ownerships, but I haven't looked at him since like 12. What do you think about Max Strus minutes? He got a 36, 34, 16 last 3 games against Toronto. So I don't think the last 3 games against Toronto is really the correlate, like, you know what I mean? Like, I don't think that's where we base our expectations here. I think we're just looking at him to fill the potential minutes for Martin. And then are those minutes super valuable, sharing the court with a Butler, Adebayo, Tyler Hero especially. Hero starting is a big piece of that offense, Kyle Lowry. So let's just give the man 30 minutes as it is. He's the fifth option more than likely, right? So I just don't see myself wanting to get action on him, particularly if you just mean for like a value play. Can he fill a role for X amount of minutes? At 4,600, I'd be more likely to click 5K on DraftKings. I mean, sure, but I'm just getting like a medium return here. I think the FanDuel ROI looks a little bit better, about 29 fantasy points on both. So 29 at 5K is fine. Probably not like slate breaking optimal, but if you're looking for a stocking stuffer that just fits, sure. I'm just not that enthralled with it. Was he super active in his minutes last game? Same matchup, right? 36, had 20 real points, 14 shot attempts, 3 for 7 from behind the arc. Let's see. Let's look at that. Maybe I'm too tough on him. Let's see when the bulk of his production came. So I guess the fourth quarter is something that's probably the most fair to look at. Half of his minutes with Butler, Adebayo, no Hero there. I'm more worried about him on the court with Hero for that 20 plus real points, but 7 points in the fourth quarter. That's when Hero was down with foul trouble. So that's almost half of his points right there. So maybe we set a role to minimize the overlap between him and Hero. And then in the second quarter, he played a lot with no Hero, but remember, that's when he didn't start. He was backing up, and he scored 8 points. So it feels like almost all of his points came without Tyler Hero on the court. So I would have a little bit more tapered expectations if the expectation is for him to just start where Caleb Martin is. You know what I'm saying? So let's play that by ear. I don't want to give you guys a definitive answer, but I do want to put a little context to his production. And I do think his minutes aren't as valuable potentially as a starter as him off the bench, where there's less overlap with the higher usage guys. If that makes sense. It should make sense. It's pretty simple, you know? If Conley was going to sit, he should have at least showed up on the afternoon injury report. That's why I'm skeptical, Dennis. I'm not sure. That seems like an obvious bit of news that would already be out. I think Olenek is a smash play, especially against the team he played for already. Yeah. All right, T-Wolves hosting the Spurs. Projects 35 for the Spurs. Trey Jones, Devin Vassell, Keldon Johnson, Jeremy Sochin, Jakob Poeltl. Am I not Poeltl enough for the Poeltl Club? Taking on D. Russ, Anthony Edwards, Jaden McDaniels, Carl Anthony Towns, the Big Cat, Ernie Ladd, and Rudy Gobert. 234.5 total, 8.5 points spread for the home team. Minnesota Timberwolves. Kyle the Anderson's got tickets to the game. Why are all my bits on the Minnesota team here? He's out. Austin Rivers out. Nothing really changes. Big fat minute projections for the entire starting five for the T-Wolves here. It just comes down to, do we expect this game to be competitive? And I don't think there's a wrong answer here. 8.5 point spread here. The opportunity is for the Spurs. We've seen them be competitive and beat the Sixers. So they can hang, I guess, if they're firing on all cylinders. So what do we do? Trey Jones, Devin Vassell, Keldon Johnson are probably the most interesting pieces. And then Devin Vassell, guard and forward eligible over on DraftKings. 20 plus real points back-to-back games. 14-15 shot attempts. John, I appreciate that sub, man. Welcome to the channel. Maybe he's shooting overly efficient, right? Lights out. 50%, 57% from three. You know what I'm saying? Like, he's probably a little bit on the unsustainable field goal efficiency so far, but the volume's there and the price is still fine for us to get there in another 230 plus total. So guys that make the cut for me, for sure. Jones, Vassell, Keldon Johnson, I think at 7K on both sites. I'm not comfortable there. Might get some light exposure, but I'm not super comfortable with the projection per dollar. And then Jakob Poeltl, I think, has a little bit of room, but the matchup is certainly not one that I'm super enthralled with here. So I think a bulk of my interest is going to be on Trey Jones and Devin Vassell in terms of San Antonio exposure. On the T-Wolves, everyone's in play. Literally everyone. Well, I guess maybe I'd be light on Jaden McDaniels, but I might even be sleeping on Jaden McDaniels. McDaniels. Everyone's in play. I think the T-Wolves are going to be one of the toughest teams to project game by game. I think the responsible way for me to approach them is to put them all in a group and kind of prevent overlap or some more correlated overlap between them. It just seems like they could all just be pretty average plays at their price points today. So the total's nice, but man, the prices are somewhat efficient and trolly. So I could see myself limiting T-Wolves studs to just one per lineup, really. Maybe two until we're a little bit more defined. I think Cat at 8,500 on FanDuel has room for like a coexistence ceiling with one of the other guys. So maybe that's there. San Antonio Spurs. Let's go to the team metrics so far on them. Blocks per game allowed. San Antonio has allowed the 5th most blocks per game so far, right? Really young season. There's a guy named Rudy Gobert. He kind of does that. And they also have been, I think, the defensive rebound rate for them right now is really awful as well. Let's see, defensive rebound rate. San Antonio is bottom 6 in defensive rebound rate. Rudy Gobert kind of does that as well. So, good spot for Rudy. I'm getting 43 fantasy points here. Broken bat. Too soon. Let's go back to Rudy. Dude, I can't type today. Rudy, there we go. 39.5. That's close enough that I wouldn't really want to sweat it, but it is a good matchup. So I'm probably just gonna. I think I'll put the 4 T-Wolves in a group, and I'll probably limit to 2 of the 4, and hope that kind of grabs the right correlation or the right range of outcomes with correlation in mind. Maybe even need to tweak, like, do I just put D-Russ or Edwards and Cat or Gobert? You know what I'm saying? I don't know. Let's get caught up on chat. Back-to-back for the Spurs. Yup. What about birthday boy Vucevic and Jaylen Brown against each other? I haven't looked at the game yet, but I didn't have any fire takes yet. What up, EB? It might be that Fournier night. Stop it. Maybe, but if it is, I'll probably miss out on every Evan Fournier night this season, and I'm okay with that. Anthony Edwards in his last 2 games has a 28% usage rate, plus Spurs have struggled with guards attacking the rim. Yeah, I think everyone on the T-Wolves has a plus matchup. That's not the issue for me. The issue is just the coexisting price points and the opportunity for maybe this game to be a little bit lopsided. But there's not one person on the T-Wolves, at least out of the big 4, that I would push back on at all. I'm just trying to be responsible with exposure and lineup portfolio management, and trying to make sure it's all correlated well enough to where I look back at the end of tonight and I'm like, man, how did I have 3 of the same guy on a 8-game? You know what I mean? Same team on an 8-gamer. Fading Gobert. D-stack sounds appealing. Yeah. Pirtle had a stupid number of offensive board versus Philly. Yeah. Pirtle per dollar, like, usually projects pretty well, but this is going to be one of the tougher spots that I expect. That I'm not going to be too enamored with the price point. Maybe he has a bad game, but I can get behind him at a cheaper price and a more alluring matchup. But yeah, Rudy Gobert is somebody I'll probably would not target much going forward. You don't want that Fournier revenge narrative. I forget sometimes he was Magic, man. He's had a couple stops since then. I think Fournier might have been on one of my Bink lineups a couple years back when he was with the Magic. Good times. Noel could be some sneaky value. Last man in on DraftKings, McDaniels, Olynyk, or Aldama. Oh, man. I'd probably lean Olynyk right now. That's probably where I'm at. Olynyk. Chat, we got over 200 people hanging out right now. That's pretty cool. You know, it'd be cooler if half of you guys would hit the thumbs up right now, and we could push to over 100 likes. That's kind of my goal for every weekday stream, man. So would appreciate that if you don't mind. And let's matriculate on to the next game. Celtics and the Bulls. Project starting five for the Celtics. Marcus Smart, Derek White, Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum, and Al Horford. Taking Ayo Dosunmu, Zach LaVine, DeMar DeRozan, Patrick Williams, and Nikola Vucevic. A 225 total 6-point spread in favor of the visiting Boston Celtics. We had just mentioned the names Jaylen Brown and Vucevic. Again, this one feels a little bit rougher around the edges to love for fantasy, especially if the Bulls are fully healthy with LaVine, DeRozan, Vooch, considering the pace and what I think will eventually be a positive defensive rating Boston Celtics team. So I can't imagine I'm going to be too in love with anything here. Looking at projections this far out, I don't get a 40 on the Bulls median projection, and all these guys are over 7K. We got a DeRozan 9K, 8K on Vooch. So I could probably see myself being down. I might be completely unexposed to this game in 20 max, and then I'll let them fall where they fall in mass entry. Maybe I put LaVine, DeRozan, Vooch in a group and only go one of those three in a lineup as a rule, like a limit. But I don't think I'm going to be I don't think I'm going to be on the Bulls much unless news comes out. On the Celtics side, Marcus Smart's going to project well, 5-6 on both sides, 30 plus. It's there for the taking. We got a big game out of Derek White on Saturday. That's what really helped me have a strong Saturday night. I think Jaylen Brown has the most ceiling per if we're thinking value. 8,200 on FanDuel, 8,500 on DK, 40 plus. I'll take it. Tatum's appropriately priced. I wouldn't say no, but it's not like an egregious error. And then Horford, 5,600, 5,400 on DK. Keep getting positive projection on that price point. We have been let down a couple times, but I wouldn't push back on that. I think it's really just the Brown and Tatum exposure levels for me. I typically prevent overlap between the two of them if I can help it, and that's probably my lean here. And I think I end up with more Jaylen Brown than anything. So that's kind of my boring take on this one. Do you guys have any hot takes here? Did you guys say it was Jaylen's birthday? Jaylen Brown birthday? Not that that matters, but cool. How do we spin that? Bro, it's his birthday. They're playing where Michael Jordan was anyway. So, okay. I can get down with that. I think it's cheap enough, though. I'll take it. What up, Tall? I like LaVine and Tatum on FanDuel. LaVine might have more room on the bone than I give him credit for. We finally saw him make his season debut in that last outing. Saw 28 minutes of lopsided basketball. So let's go look at the rotation on that. So it could be loss that he's not limited, right? He played a little bit in the fourth quarter, but probably missed out on a couple minutes there. So 32, 33 minutes, maybe not a crazy thought. So maybe there's enough room on LaVine that I should give him more love. And he certainly was immediately involved offensively, 23 points. So 7,200 on FanDuel, probably inefficient price point versus the probability of scoring 40 plus. But I just don't like to pick on the Celtics. I think Smart, Derek White, solid enough that I'll expect a more median projection. But Brown and Tatum, mostly Brown. How can someone be so bad at NFL DFS as me? Shark, did you actually make bad lineups, or were you hit with injuries? Being honest with yourself. You don't have to answer me, I guess, if you didn't want. But boy, there was a lot of injuries yesterday, and there's been a lot of injuries this season. But yesterday was pretty rough. I did have a lot of duds. But I made money, so I'm just gonna not ask questions. PrizePicks plays for this game, for the Celtics and Bulls game. Let's go look. Boston. Jaylen Brown, 37.5 fantasy points for FanDuel scoring. I've got him at 44. So I got about a 7-point gap if you want to sweat that. I wouldn't mind that. What about Marcus Smart? Got him at 26.5 fantasy points. I think I was in the 30s, low 30s there, so that's there. Horford is at 25. I'm at 31. I don't want to bank on Horford, but that's there, sure. I think the most appealing Boston one for me is going to be the Jaylen Brown fantasy. And then for Chicago, we can look at maybe Levine points. You think they're completely caught up in reality? Bro, Astros fans are like messaging me about the roof take. Like, I had nothing to do with that. Stop it. Amaziri, man, appreciate the sub. Welcome to the channel, buddy. I hope you're doing all right. Levine, 34.5 fantasy. I'm at 37. That's not a giant gap. When it comes to Levine, I probably want something scoring based if I'm gonna sweating over. What's the point line at him? Looking at 18. No, we don't have 20.5. No 3-pointer attempts. I'm probably just on Jaylen Brown if I had to force a pick from that game, you know? Oh, Vucevic's birthday too? Yeah. Y'all really coming at me with some birthdays, bro. I don't really take that into consideration because it's kind of a silly thing. But just for since I got a little time to burn. Here we go. Nikola Vucevic, DKP by game log on. Did they log his birthday on his birthday last 10 years? We might be able to just do on 10/24. They don't. All right, on 10/24. Wait, I left birthday in there. Hold up. So he's played on his birthday once. Y'all are wildin'. According to stat, if I did this right. Jim, appreciate that follow, man. Welcome to the channel. Hope you're doing good. He had 30 fantasy points against the Brooklyn Nets in 2017. I can't believe you guys got me looking this up, dude. This is so irrelevant. And then Jaylen Brown also 20. Maybe I didn't do it right. Maybe StatMuse doesn't know how to do this. I don't know. Who would be a better example? But unremarkable results there for Jaylen Brown as well. Maybe I am doing it right because I threw LeBron in there. There's something back. Anyway, guys, birthdays don't actually matter for projections, unless it just don't. Let's get caught off. If Mike Conley sits off some Malik Beasley, yeah, I think he becomes a better projected value, especially if we think Colin Sexton could also be on ice. But it just seems like we should have that information, or at least rumors of that information, and I haven't seen it in black and white yet. Jim says Tampa effing sucks. Brady done. I don't know, man. That's a tough situation for Brady, more so on the outside looking in. We can all have our own thoughts on what's happening there, but for him for his personal and professional life to be going what it's going through, I just feel for him. I know it's all data, but Levine had some big games against Celtics. I just take a low in a pick and roll tournament. I think you could take chance on Levine just based on his price and potential minutes, but I wouldn't get too married to the data as justification for it, right? I think maybe we should have some content soon on what data is actually actionable and meaningful, other than just this guy's hit this number X amount of times in this last 10 game. But you know what I mean? Like, there's, at least in my opinion, that's not really super actionable without more context. So I would rather say look at numbers of Levine production with DeRozan, with Vucevic on the court, because last year we had a lot of it staggering. So I guess we'll pull it back to last year, and let's just have the big three together, and then we'll also take off Lonzo. What's up, Obi? Hope you're doing all right. Did you say happy birthday, chat? Gun doesn't want to hear this birthday crap. You know, I got an alert from Twitter today. It's my 8-year anniversary on Twitter. So that's just the theme today. So I got the three on the court, and they all have just like similar production just from what matters at the end of the day. Fantasy points per minute. 1.04 for LaVine, 1.04 for DeRozan, Vucevic at 1.15. Usage rate's pretty split, 21, 26, 24. So it's just like, I'm not too excited. I will say LaVine's, his assist rate leads the team, but yeah, I'm just not that enthralled with it. Top player of the slate, just straight up projection wise, I got Jokic and Embiid. I really like Ja if Brooks is for sure out, but I think Embiid is the guy that I'm digging. I just need that game to stay close enough, long enough that he gets that oomph minute wise, right? Brady's had so much cosmetic surgery done, he looks like one of those nutcrackers. No, you like marketing rebounds versus the Rockets? What's it at? 8.5 against the Rockets. It's definitely doable considering the potential pace and possessions implied there. And if Şengün is out, I have him right about 7 rebounds right now. But there's room for that to go up. But I think it's an efficient line, I guess I would say. So it's not like a spot where I feel compelled to smash it. Pelicans and Minnesota. So remember, those last 2 games went to overtime. So if the line's 8 and we're just looking at the results rather than the context of what happened, did he get 3 rebounds in overtime periods those last 2 games? Well, looking it up, Markin in overtime yesterday only got 1 rebound, so he would have cleared. And then Markin in overtime the game prior, 2 rebounds. So I don't love it, but I think it's beatable. I like Markkanen against the Rockets no matter what, but I think I'd just throw a blanket over everything at fantasy points up there. What is Markkanen doing? Blocks and steals are up 3. I didn't know he gets down like that. I was thinking maybe we can get a break on just PRA, but if he's gonna have an opportunity at continuing, 2 stocks per game, that's 6+ implied points. I'll probably just throw a blanket over the fantasy if I really want to get some marketing action, but I didn't think it's trying to catch up. Vooch is 52 today. Happy birthday, Vooch, turning 52 years old. Absolute Power says, what's up, Gun? Would you play Obi Toppin on the Knicks or Josh Richardson Spurs? Bro, there's got to be a better way. There's got to be a better. If that's a yes or no question, the answer is no. If it's a this one or this one question, the answer is no. Maybe I'm missing something. Let me see. Obi Toppin, 16 fantasy points. Josh Richardson, 21. So I guess if it's a this or that, J Rich projects better, but I definitely feel like there should be a better option for you somewhere. If it's a FanDuel question and you're looking at Richardson or Toppin, maybe you can consider Kenyon Martin. He's small forward eligible for the low. But I would say you're down bad if you're 1v1ing those two on an 8-game slate, bro. There's got to be a better way, Jamal Murray could win some. Slaying his back-to-back health tonight, maybe. All right, let's move on to the Blazers game. I guess we're almost done. So let's move on to a plug. This stream brought to you by PrizePicks.com. we've kind of been perusing through the PrizePicks prop board throughout this stream. If you're not on PrizePicks, definitely you should check it out. It's not just for NBA, by the way. I've seen tons of success for NFL over the weekend. But PrizePicks is kind of unique. A lot of sites are offering these pick'em contests and these get 4 right, get this X return on your dollar. But I think PrizePicks has such a unique offering, such as the fantasy points, the first half, the quarters, stuff like that, that it does make it different enough that there's still somewhat of an edge for me. I love the fantasy points side of the board, because I can just literally look at my projections and look over there and find the biggest discrepancies. And then oftentimes you do find some more value in their lines versus the sharpest sports books line. So check it out. It is a good way to supplement maybe your cash games that you're already running. A good way to attack the bigger slates where maybe you got family, you got real life stuff that you can't sit around, wait for news all day. You can just attack some angles. Sign up using code GUNDACKER. They'll double your first deposit up to $100, and then of course they show us some love. So if you want to show love to the channel in a roundabout way, sign up for PrizePicks. Use code GUNDACKER. And every day when I play PrizePicks, I like to drop my favorite picks, not only in the premium Discord at rundfs.com, but we do have a free Discord. Link to that is in the description below. And usually I'll drop it in the NBA channel or the YouTube members channel for those of you that are official members of this channel. I think that's like $5 a month, so that's in there. So yeah, cool way to kind of tail what I'm tailing if you want to add it to what you're already running. If you're not in the Discord, definitely jump in there. Looking for mods, looking for more people to be part of the community, build it out. Brandon Ingram placed in concussion protocol. That's intriguing. And then jump into Discord, share your plays, share what you're running, look at others, share your screenshots, show your success, man. And as always, be humble. Be humble. We chilling. Big chilling. Let's get caught up on chat. Just give your money to a homeless man? Nah. People, including me, joke about Brady's personal life, but that is something that really can affect your life. Throw you some curveballs on the game, though. Yeah, I like to joke around, especially on Twitter. You guys see me play last night, but I do have a line. I will never go after someone's personal life, man. That's tough. I mean, I can only imagine. So, hopefully, there's a success story there. Let's go to the main event tonight. Denver Nuggets at the Portland Trail Blazers. Project starting 5 for the Nuggets: Jamal Murray, KCP, Michael Porter Jr., Aaron Gordon, and Nikola Jokic taking on Damian Lillard, Anthony Simons, Josh Hart, Jeremy Grant, Yusuf Nurkic. 227 total, 5-point spread in favor of the visiting Denver Nuggets. A lot of healthy attackable totals too. We've seen a slew of 230s, but I'll take a high 220s as well. Talked about Jamal Murray. I think he's probably the most obvious discrepancy in price from site to site. FanDuel, he's $5,500. DraftKings, $7,500. So literally a $2,000 difference in price. And based on your expectations, is he worth getting to on FanDuel is the major question. I think $7,500, no matter what. I think that's, even at peak Jamal Murray, that was a truly enough price point where it didn't have to be a priority. Even if he's like a 30-minute guy at 55 on FanDuel, you feel like there's a lane for success there. And at a 28-minute projection, I'm getting a little over 30 fantasy points. And that's stocking stuffer levels of I'll take it, with a little bit of potential upside if he's going to start growing, in chemistry with the current team and minutes, right? Looking at Nuggets and Thunder the other night, we saw Murray play 27.5 minutes. I think that's a fair expectation going forward, but I also think the goal will be to make him a 30-plus minute player. So does he nickel and dime his way towards that? Sure. I just really think the biggest point of consideration here is $5,500. I think this is really too cheap if we get that unexpected pop off game at 31 minutes. You know what I'm saying? So I think Murray's worth getting to. Jokic is drawing one of the highest projections for me this far out. I think it led the slate in fantasy points. Yeah. Well above Embiid. Embiid is perhaps a little bit riskier because of the blowout and maybe the opportunity to put the big man on ice sooner than later. We know his history. Maybe that starts balancing out the seesaw a little bit to expecting Jokic to deliver. I like the 10.9K price point on DraftKings for Jokic as well. 60 plus is 60 plus. If you drop in 60 plus and you're going to be a top 3 guy in raw points, there's a great lane for you to be optimal. And we have kind of discussed some of the more obvious value today, and a lot of it does include Garuba from Houston, 3,500 on DraftKings. He's center only. So is Jokic. So center util spot. Maybe that value causes the field to build value up, right? Spending up at the forwards and guard spot. So maybe that's going to be a little bit more lucrative for us to late night hammer a guy like Jokic and potentially literally lead the slate in fantasy points. So something to think about in terms of ownership projections as well. On the Blazer side, Damian Lillard, 8,800 on FanDuel. I would love an at 8K price point. Got the game I was looking for Saturday. I still think around 9K. There's still a world where 50 plus fantasy points happens, but it is more of an efficient price point. Josh Hart stood out to me quite a bit. 59 on FanDuel, 5,600 on DraftKings, 35-ish fantasy points on the return. So I could see myself getting invested in him as a stocking stuffer. Dual position eligible on DraftKings, so you can put him in 4 spots in your lineup. That's a lot of versatility with a lot of implied floor, and the same with FanDuel. You can put him in shooting guard and small forward. So it seems like a really solid opportunity at 30 fantasy points for 5,900 with a little bit of wiggle room to go up, right? So think I'm going to end up being probably tier 2 levels of investment, if not higher, in Josh Hart. I'm not expecting the 40-50. I'm just expecting a really solid floor. You could make that case for Jeremy Grant as well, especially on DraftKings. I think the Blazers are pretty interesting. Nurkic is intriguing. The Nurkic-Jokic rivalry, 6,400. We saw Nurkic play 35 minutes against Phoenix. So that's good to know. We could put to rest, maybe some of our more pessimistic expectations of minutary after we saw opening night and get just 25 minutes, and then 30 minutes against the Lakers. So I think if he's a 30 or 35 minute player, he shouldn't be just 6,400 because his ceiling can be 40, 50 plus. So I don't mind that. And we know Jokic can be beaten defensively with the right moves. So I think that's too cheap, especially on DraftKings. So plenty of reason to like here. And I think there's a lane to attack center today at really every price range and feel like you're not making crazy decisions. We've made cases for Jokic and Embiid, the Gobert block matchup. You go a little bit more mid here. We've even made cases for Claxton against Memphis. And then, of course, the obvious value plays down there at the bottom with Garuba, the Hartenstein insurance policy to a Mitchell Robinson foul game. So it's going to be fun to see how the field does shake out when everything starts to settle and the news starts to become more definitive, Let's get caught up on chat here. Chat, that's the slate, though. I'm going to plug Run DFS. If you guys want access to my spreadsheet, my projections, I make a player pool that I'm running for both DraftKings and FanDuel. If you guys want to tail that or compare yours to mine, you can. And I will be in the RunDFS.com VIP Discord voice chat right here. Just hanging out, making some lineups. If you guys want to talk out some plays or just chill while you're making your lineups, you're welcome to jump in there. It is behind the paywall at RunDFS.com. Click VIP memberships. There's something for everyone, right? Week passes, 2 week passes, month. The season for NBA, that's probably going to be up another week or so. And then you guys can also get the entire year pass for next year. And the earlier, the more value. $5.99 with a $150 credit towards Fantasy Cruncher. So you can rebate that down. And yeah, once you do upgrade, click VIP portal. There's links to spreadsheets and then link to the Discord. If you get in the Discord, you basically get everything you need because there's links to the spreadsheets in the Discord as well. So definitely would like to see you guys jump in there and become part of the premium community. So let's talk any questions you might have. If you guys are just if you guys are ready to get out of here, all I ask is you hit that thumbs up on your way out. And then tomorrow, NBA schedule. I'm not leaving. I'm just, for those of you that are leaving, tomorrow is a 4-game slate. 6, 6:30, 7, 9. So I guess I would ask you guys, do you guys want to do a stream tomorrow? And if so, would you rather do 3 p.m. Eastern? Or excuse me, 4 p.m. Eastern? Because we don't need 2 hours to talk that. So I guess I'll leave that up to you. We'll do likes on that too. We're at 81 likes. If we get 100 likes, maybe we'll hang out tomorrow for a little bit and just talk it over. Maybe I can just, yeah, we'll do that. But we need 100 likes. 100 likes, guys. All right, let's tackle the chat before we get out of here. JJ, are you Czech or are you just some random guy hating? I'm assuming you're Czech. Music is a must when you're going solo. I appreciate that, Shark. Bold call of the day, says Sin, minus Kyrie being a top scorer on the slate. I could definitely see that. We can justify that with the matchup and the game total. So my bold call, if we're just trying to get creative and not be chaotic about it, how about 8,300 Halliburton drops another 50 and he goes under him. There we go. I don't know if we talked about it, but Fantasy Labs did tweet Conley's expected to play. Oh, did they? Okay. So I definitely don't want to draw no heat, but I'm an underdog family guy, you know what I'm saying? But if Conley is expected to play, I would assume they didn't make that up. That's interesting. Good to know. I appreciate that. I was going to play up. I'll play Morant. His head got too big. Let Ja outplay him. Okay. Stream, please. Whatever time. 4 p.m. I'm thinking we could squeeze in a 4 p.m. stream tomorrow. Knock out 4 games. Who's your core 4 for DraftKings tournaments at the moment? At the moment for DraftKings. So let's do a value check for DK. I got a really nice number on Trey Jones here. I probably will be heavy on Josh Hart. And by the way, when I core a guy, it's usually not the 10K guys that are part of my core. It's usually the guys that are severely underpriced. So a guy like Josh Hart, stocking stuff for 30. Jalen Green's intriguing at 6,300 based on that total, and I think the matchup would be fine. Definitely comes with volatility, but I like it. Devin Vassell at 5,400. His usage has just been so nutty right now. Matter of fact, what's an official number on that? And I usually love to have a mispriced center as part of my core. But there's so many angles. I guess from this far out, we'd have to say Garuba is part of the core. But that's also going to be super high owned. Vassell so far this season, 23% usage. About a fantasy point per minute. So if we squeeze 34 minutes out of him, I think 5,400, 34 minutes, 34 fantasy points would be kind of too cheap to get away from, especially if we funnel even more opportunity for the guards, getting away from Gobert's interior defense, you know? So there's a couple names I would probably jot down. Who's your best PrizePicks play? Man, dude, Ben Simmons is he's going to be the bane of my existence all year. I like the half a block shot. I like the fantasy difference between what I have. I also don't mind John Morant's fantasy points, especially if Dylan Brooks didn't play. I had the Clarkson assist line, but I didn't have. But that was like on a hunch that Conley wouldn't play. We never got any floating piece of news that would kind of suggest he's not playing. It's just a historical guess, and based on what we see in chat, some outlets are reporting that he's expected to play. But I think anyone that there's not info on not playing is just expected to play. You know. Why did I unfriend? What? Why did I unfriend? I didn't. I don't know what you're talking about, rival. Vassell is a great move. Yeah, I think Hart is the bold prediction. I don't think Hart's a bold prediction. I'm not predicting Hart for 50 unless you are, and that's your bold prediction. But he just seems like super rock solid for 30, 40 fantasy points, and it's kind of too cheap, you know. Which, by the way, I think, what was Hart at on PrizePicks? 28. Best point spread pick today, man, baby. I don't get the bet spreads, so I don't feel comfortable putting advice for something I can't bet, if that makes sense. So I don't want to put you out there on that. I would say that if the Nets won outright against the Grizzlies, who are 1-point favorites, that wouldn't surprise me. So if you're gonna take a point on the Nets, sure, but I'd rather just take them to win. But I don't feel comfortable giving advice on something I can't put money behind. I appreciate that sub though. Vassell versus Hart, gotta choose one. I think Hart's floor is higher because he does stuff the stat sheet with peripherals. He's a rebound getter. With Vassell, he's gotta have to score some real points to kind of be an impact player in your lineups. You know what I mean? So Hart with floor in mind. Thoughts on Reddish? Is there a reason we're thinking Reddish? 19, 28 minutes. Reddish is likely not going to be in my player pool. But if I missed reasoning for it, I'm all ears. Remember, this fourth quarter of the last game was a blowout. So you could potentially give him 7 minutes that... I mean, maybe he plays like 3 of those minutes, but I wouldn't trust... I don't trust that. And then the game before for Reddish, probably a little bit more. I had 28 minutes. What happened here? That's the game where Mitchell Robinson had foul trouble. Did we get more Julius Randle at the center for Reddish to open up minutes against a smaller Grizzlies team? No, Hartenstein was on the court. I don't have enough trust in Reddish on an 8-game slate to want to be there. So those are my thoughts on Reddish. What team are you stacking the most or would recommend? The game I would target, Moose, is as information comes out. Utah Jazz and Houston Rockets seem like you could throw a 6K net per over that game and just soak up the results. Obviously, I don't expect super low ownership through and through, but that's the spot I like the most. And then for a little bit more contrarian, I don't have a pulse on ownership yet. I need to look at that, but I guess it's just Utah and Houston. That's the game I would focus on. Get what I need to get from there, and then allow it to build out the rest of my portfolio. Goga time tonight. It just seems hard to justify Goga over Garuba. What a sentence that is, by the way. I also feel like the Pacers, even last year, they were so trolly with the front court production between Isaiah Jackson, Jalen Smith, Terry Taylor, Goga. It's just going to be annoying all year. So we're going to have this carousel of spike games for no reason. 15 rebounds, you know what I mean? So Goga, if I got the Goga, it would strictly to be 100K to first to beat 200,000 lineups. You know what I mean? I don't feel like there's a sense of urgency that I'd have to make that decision. but I wouldn't talk you off that ledge. Any Kelly Olynyk love? Yeah, absolutely. Like Kelly Olynyk today. The hero from last night. Forward, center, eligible, 35 plus minutes, likely to be a point per minute producer. I'm quickly forgiving the Denver game and knowing that Houston's been a Honeywell for fantasy points from opposing teams. So absolutely invested in Kelly Olynyk. What team go? How many Spurs would you stack? Probably 2. Like the ones I'm most keen on are Trey Jones and Devin Vassell. Keldon Johnson at 7+K. I don't feel like I'm getting a great deal, and I do have some worries about Jakob Poeltl's matchup. So 2 is probably my happy space, and that's Jones and Vassell. If you had to choose Jalen Green or Tyler Hero, that's a good one, Dez. That's a really good one. Probably Jalen Green to correlate better with all the Utah Jazz I'm already in, but I think that's a good one. I think both have a ceiling worth chasing, and Tyler Hero as a starter has certainly been somebody that has been a focal point of their offense. 25, 23 points the first 2 games. Last game out, picked up a lot of foul trouble. Hopefully he stays out of foul trouble here because per minute he was crushing it. So I would say there's a coin flip, but I don't think there's a wrong answer there. That's a gut call. Maybe run the same lineup twice, with one with each, Top stud to play on DK for tournaments. That would probably come down to ownership. And I don't have that open right now. Looked at Underdog and I don't see anything on Conley. Yeah, they haven't reported anything, Nitram. I definitely feel like I've been pretty clear that the Conley thing is nothing but a hunch, and it's based on data going into last season where we don't see him play a lot of back-to-backs, but it is almost 5 p.m. Eastern. You would think if he was not going to play, you would think news would be out by now, but you just never know in a road game on a back-to-back. You know what I'm saying? But I don't. It's like a gut lean. Like I didn't trust 2 back-to-back games going into overtime, and now a literal back-to-back for a guy who didn't play back-to-backs for the majority of like the last couple of years. So it just seems like I don't expect him to play, but I also feel like the news would be out by now. KPJ, yeah, I like KPJ. Any love for Jalen Smith? Yes, a lot of love for Jalen Smith. A lot. Jalen Smith would probably be my favorite of the front court options from Indiana, with Isaiah Jackson as an option as well. And then you guys have talked about Goga and Terry Taylor to a more volatile GPP-minded extent. But Jalen Smith is absolutely somebody that should be in your player pool. If you're buying into this, if you like his usage, what I would be worried about is what happened in Game 1. I'd just be worried about fouls against Embiid. But for the most part, his per minute production is mispriced. Even in a bad matchup, 5,500 is just too cheap of an opportunity if you expect the downside, right, or median range of outcome to be closer to 30 than anything. So, yes, we should be playing Jalen Smith. Hero's much tougher matchup than Jay Green. I agree with that, Jason, but I also, don't care about the matchup at the considering the price. And Hero, if it wasn't for foul trouble, his pacing in this same matchup, 32 fantasy points in 22 minutes. He probably left 14 minutes out there, right? So if he's doing that in 22 minutes, what's there on 30 minutes? So I agree that it's a tougher matchup, but he also could be somebody that it could be underpriced. So you have to be real responsible about overrating matchups when the price is inefficient, because the matchup and inefficient prices can just kind of fog up the waters. And right now I have Hero for 36 fantasy points, which is fine, not breaking the slate, but I think he can be just fine. And then if Scotty Barnes is out, remember he's questionable. He's a solid defender. If they stretch Anunoby out a little bit more, it's a path of less resistance for the guard here, right? So I don't think Hero's in that bad of a spot. They still gotta have to score, right? And I think Hero is likely to be one of the team leaders in shot attempts. Nitram, somebody was referencing Fantasy Labs, their NBA account. I personally prefer only using Underdog, but I understand the verbiage was he's expected to play, and that could just mean that nothing's come out saying he wouldn't play, so you would expect him to play. How do you feel about Kellyo and Lowry? I like them both. Marking it on FanDuel, I feel like the price is getting up there, but I still think there's room for upside. If he drops 40 plus at under 8K against the Houston Rockets, nobody's stunned, and he's been crushing. Jalen Smith's going to get destroyed by Embiid. Very much likely, but also not going to make Jalen Smith lose fantasy points. So he's probably still underpriced. If so, I like Achua tonight, but Chris Boucher is making his season debut tonight. Yeah, we love the Chris Boucher carousel of chaos. Is Trey Jones overpriced on FanDuel? Trey Jones. 54? I would say no, absolutely not. As a matter of fact, I would probably say Trey Jones is closer to being underpriced than overpriced, especially if you think he gets 30 minutes. And we did this exercise on opening night, but quick thing we can do here on StatMuse is Trey Jones FDP by game log with 30 minutes. Let's go last, 50 games. So this is the last 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, whatever. These are all games of Trey Jones with 30 minutes, and more often than not, he's eclipsing 30 fantasy points. So I don't think he's overpriced. And like I said, I would think he's closer to being underpriced. Hero got paid all that money. He's got to produce. Yeah, Edwards or OG? Probably Edwards. OG Anunoby's big games are likely going to be more defensive peripheral minded, which is not impossible, but in that pace, I don't expect as much. So probably Anthony Edwards. If Harden has a super high ownership on DK, would you go over the field or fade completely? If it's super high in a double digit, I think that's the largest spread of the slate. I think I would look at what it is relative to Joel Embiid. And like if Embiid wasn't super high and Harden was, I would probably just grab Embiid. That way I'm still at the spot that makes sense. But DK price at 9K, man, it's pretty easy to pay that off. But I still think he's at 9K. You're gonna need 50 tonight to be optimal. So yeah, but if it's super high, if any stud is super high on a 8-game slate, I probably look for reasons to go the other way. But I'd probably want the lesser owned stud and just take the gamble. All right, let me get out you guys' way. If you're not coming into the VIP voice chat, I'd recommend go checking out the deeper dive over at Stochastic. If you're on Twitter, twitter.com/Gundacker. If you got anything for me, that's the place. Jump in that free Discord, man. I definitely appreciate you guys making part of my Monday afternoon, be part of your Monday afternoon. Do me a favor. Find somebody out there. Tell them you love them. I love you. I'll see you guys probably tomorrow. Good luck. God bless. And go win some money.